All right, fellow patriots, welcome back to another Friday Mental Jujitsu. My name is Michael Buell, and I'm your champion. Hiya! Okay, guys, um, this is yeah, we got this truth seekers and listening to the words of the enemy. So this is a word of the enemy I've heard recently. Someone said recently, worry about the things you can control. That's the word of the enemy. Somebody put that in his brain. The enemy put that in his brain. There's nothing on this planet that you can't control. The enemy just doesn't want you getting in. So if you find something that you want to get involved in, and then you go after it, you are in control to some degree. Whether it's 0.1 degree or you find a way to get 100% in, you're taking control even if it's a minor amount, right? So that you get involved, you can make a decision. So I want to tell you a great story about a truth seeker who got involved, even though the enemy would definitely say, worry about the things you can control. I'm going to tell you about 70-year-old Benjamin Franklin. First of all, 70 is old. We all know that. 70 in 1775, 1776 is super duper old. So when he decided that he wanted to take some control, get involved in the Revolutionary War, of course, everybody's like, man, go back to your rocking chair. You're too old. Fighting war, that's a young man's game. We don't need you, old man. But he didn't listen to the enemy, the voice of the enemy. So he used his fame, because remember, he did the key and the electricity, he invented the lightning rod, he invented bifocals. So he had some fame, but he was just a nerd. He was a book writer, he was a newspaper printer, he was a publisher, he was a book nerd, but he was a famous book nerd. So he goes down to the Second Continental Congress and runs for office, gets elected for Pennsylvania. He decided to take some level of control. And again, the truth is, he knows they can't win against the strongest army, strongest navy, that we're going to need some help. So he comes up with a plan. Hey, Continental Congress, send me to France. The French and the English hate each other. They've hated each other for 1,000 years. Let me see if I get the king to back our play. So he's got a three-step plan. He goes out to France, doesn't, he's got to learn French on the fly. His first step, his first part of his plan was to woo the women, get all the old women on his side because they're all related to the aristocrats. So once he gets the old ladies to fall in love with him, they introduce him to the aristocrats. Well, then he starts drinking with the aristocrats, telling stories with the aristocrats, playing games, chess, and all with the aristocrats, till they fall in love with him. So they're like, man, this is the coolest dude I know. We got to take him to the king. So the king goes and he starts telling them, King, we already won at Saratoga. We're a bunch of farmers, but we can do this. It's our land. We can fight. Why don't you back our play? Well, the king, everybody loved Benjamin Franklin. He had wit and charm. So the king backed his play. So because of Benjamin Franklin, we won the Revolutionary War when other people would have said, mind your own business. Can you believe it? So that's a fantastic story. So now watch this. I'm going to draw a direct correlation, a direct line, how us truth seekers, who you've called insane, conspiracy theorists, all these names, but we may have saved your life, and I'm going to prove it to you. So you first start hearing about the moon landing not being real. And even me, that was tough for me, because I grew up loving John Wayne, Evel Knievel, and astronauts. That was me. I loved it. So now you're going to start talking bad about my people. Hold up. But then you start like piecing some things together, and you're like, so wait a minute, you mean President Nixon on his hard line called from the Oval Office to Houston, from Houston to the space shuttle or to the moon lander, from the moon lander to Neil Armstrong's backpack, and they had a conversation, no glitches, no pause. I got Skylink out here in Arkansas, and I drop calls all the time. My TV's always buffering. Wait a minute. So Nixon made that call. Then type in right now to your Google machine the moon lander, the thing that landed on the moon. And now look at this thing with your adult brain. And you're like, well, look, they got these rivets on these black panels, pretty tightly spaced. They must have been running low on the beige panels because there's some gaps. You can see the shadow casting gaps. And you're like, well, so was that gold tinfoil? What's that for? No dust on the pads and the shoe pads, but you figure they're using a rocket to come slow them down. You think, yeah. So you start going, man, I don't know. That doesn't. Yeah, no dust. Yeah, they went through the Van Allen belts. Here it's like super radioactive. You got to have like five foot of lead to get through it without getting all cancer ridden. But in that little rocket thing, they just drove right through it. The spacesuit protected them. I don't know. You start trying to figure out, are they lying to us? Remember, there's one lie. The whole thing could be a lie. What do you mean? Have you ever seen the video of that nerdy astronaut saying, "I'd go back in a nanosecond," but we lost the technology? Yeah, yeah, yeah. They ran out of tape, and the Super Bowl was on. So it was either keep the technology to get to the moon or record the Super Bowl, right? What do you mean you lost the technology? Get out of here. All right, so that's your brain starts to think, well, wait a minute, can there be some lies in this story? But that ruins your whole like, oh my gosh, our government can lie to us? It can't be true. The Kennedy assassination. So one of America's greatest snipers is a guy named Carlos White Feather Hathcock. I got the feather right here for White Feather. They call him White Feather. He was a Vietnam sniper. He would put a white feather in his helmet and then go stalking other snipers, Vietnamese snipers, but like as a call out. Like, I'm so good, I can wear a white feather to give away my position and I'll still get you first. The famous scene you always see in the movies where the sniper shoots through the sniper scope. No, but he did that. That's his move. He did that. So there's other amazing stories like him waiting for 3 days, not moving for a Vietnamese general to come outside, do his morning stretch, put a bullet in him. They ran around looking for him, didn't move. Like crazy stuff. So this sniper comes back to the United States. They're like, man, you're the best we got. How about you start Marine Scout Sniper School? He says, cool. Well, he sets up the book suppository where the trees were, the road. He did the limo with the top down. So they tried to redo the shot that Oswald made. He said it couldn't be made. His students couldn't make it. And they definitely couldn't make it with Oswald's rifle, piece of shit Italian rifle. So for me, it's something like that. Wait a minute. That's all I need to hear there's bullshit, to hear there's a lie. And remember, if there's one lie, the whole thing could be a lie. So then you're like, I don't understand. But then you hear, like, wait a minute. So he in 1963, so you got to believe Oswald did it, or possibly in 1963, Kennedy kept pressuring the Israelis to let him come look at their nuclear site. They wouldn't let him. Then they let some people come, but they built false walls to hide the nuclear program, the weapons program, and only showed them the peaceful program. So he kept pressing them. He kept pressing the Israelis till a few months later, he wrote another letter saying, we're going to cut you off. We're not going to back your plan anymore. We're not going to give you funds, weapons, money, nothing. We're not doing anything for Israel anymore. And then 4 months after he wrote that letter, he took this bullet to the head. So what made, I'm just connecting the dots. If I were to say it was the Swedes did this, you'd be like, man, why the Swedes always got their fingers in everything? And then before Oswald could make it to court, a Swedish mafia member, Jan Rubson, put a bullet in his belly. Why is it always the Swedes? You think that's crazy. Then 9/11 comes out. So you could believe Carlos Whitefeather Hathcock or not, but once I heard that, I'm like, game over. And if there's one lie, the whole thing could be a lie. Then 9/11, the truth seekers, we're called crazy, we're called insane, we're called un-American. Why are we rooting for the terrorists? We're like, what? We just want to figure out what the truth is. What do you mean? So the airplanes, the jet fuel melted the beams, but remember that giant fireball when the plane impacted? Wasn't that the jet fuel? How did an airplane make a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner hole in steel frame building? And then shoot out the other side. So it shot through more, so it shot through the inner columns, the airplane, the nose, and then went through the outer columns one more time on the other side. And you can see a nose of an airplane pop out. But if an airplane hits a goose in the air, the whole front end collapses. You're like, how am I supposed to? I don't understand. It's 2,000 degrees. That's what caused it to melt. But there's people holding on to the steel beams saying, please save us. Tower 7, the news reporter from England, some woman, Tower 7 has fallen. Yes, it's no longer standing. Tower 7 has fallen. It's right there. It's right there. 30 minutes later, Tower 7 comes perfectly straight down. What? There's video of Larry No Show Silverstein. There's audio of him talking to some dude, and the guy's like, "You want us to pull it? Yeah, pull it. Okay, you want us to pull it then? Yeah, yeah, go ahead, pull it." So it's already set to blow, and apparently an airplane didn't make it. Maybe the one in Shanksville. So then the plane that crashed in Shanksville, the first time in aviation history where there's not a big giant broken up airplane, big super duper Rolls Royce engines laying there, and everything just melted away, disappeared. No luggage, no bodies. It just evaporated. Get out of here. The Pentagon, you want us to believe the Pentagon got hit by an airplane? Then show me one of the 10,000 different camera angles that you must have. So yeah, I don't know what to say. How about the Swedish guys that set up a camera facing the Twin Towers, waiting for it to blow? How'd those Swedish guys know? How did Swedish Larry No Show not make it to work that day? Yeah, the stock market. How did they know to bet against American Airlines and United Airlines? How do Swedes always know this stuff? Okay, so yeah, you now definitely 9/11 opened up our minds, but it drove us crazy. It was crazy knowing that your government could turn on you. How is this possible? So because of us, when COVID came out and they started telling us nonsense like you have to wear the mask, close your business 6 feet apart, and you definitely got to get the shot, but then they left the border wide open. They didn't make anybody put a mask on. They didn't make anybody spread out 6 feet. They didn't stick a needle in everybody's arm 6 feet apart. Wait a minute. There's got to be, wait, so you don't want us to be together because we'll be a super spreader, but you make us all go shop at the same store. Everybody got to go to Walmart instead of leaving. Everybody's got to get the shot except for the postman. Remember when they started saying that? You're like, but why wouldn't he have? Definitely, he goes door to door. He's spreading his. Why wouldn't he? And then they make it up. Congress doesn't need to get the shot now. The employees of Moderna and Pfizer don't need to get the shot now. So we're screaming, hey, what do you mean it's a vaccine? Quit calling it a vaccine. Vaccine is you get a little bit of the junk and you put it in you. This is something new, something different. mRNA, still don't know what that means. And then you're telling us it's 100% safe and effective, but it's never been tested. So it's just too much nonsense. But we screamed and yelled and then backed your play while they're telling you you got to follow the science. Well, the science says on the box, not for COVID. Nothing makes sense. So a lot of you still fell for it, but I believe because of us, pushback. If they got OSHA to approve it, it would have been over for everybody. But we stood the ground, we fought, we went insane because we had to learn all this, learn all this, learn all this to get to here. But because of us, you didn't put a poison in your arm. There you go. That's what it means to resist and assist. I'm out.